No, that was an actual real.
Really?
Cat. Yeah.
Wow.
Like they actually gave us real money. And
Hey.
yeah, no, they actually are advertising with us. We actually have a paid sponsor.
Both Joel and I and Ross, although he's not on this episode, are all graduates of that institution.
True. So that's
It's
advertising.
looking good, man. It's a great place. So
And I've been listening to Ringside for like 3 years now, so I'm pretty much with you guys, right?
yeah, pretty much.
It's interesting you say that because there's this fellow on. We had a Facebook little contest that if I pick one of your issues to talk about, you get a free shirt. And I'm gonna do.
And they all sucked, so we're not picking any of you.
I'm gonna throw this.
No,
I'm gonna throw. That's terrible. I'm gonna throw this one out. And I'm gonna hit others. There are actually some really good ones here, but I can only do one. I was told because I thought the shirt was for me. If I mentioned them, I give him a shirt. But Matt Doebler or Doebler in German with an OE, probably O umlaut originally when he came over the boat. St. Louis Seminary is going online the rest of the semester. Is now the time to seriously explore non-residential alternative models of LCMS pastoral training. All right, so let's talk about that. You know, non-residential. We'll sexy it up there a little bit there, but talk about training of pastors outside of residential. Then he says this, like a semester of listening to Ringside, for example. So that's that's good. So thank you, Matt. And I think let me just tell you this. That's not off the table. That is not off the table. So it's on there somewhere. So we're going to work at that.
The seminary paying to advertise on our podcast is kind of the first step towards us becoming accredited, right?
We just lost our sponsorship, I think, with that right there. So
probably.
I'm
surprised it lasted this long, to be honest.
Right.
One episode.
One episode. That's pretty good. All right. So, hey, let's hit some topics, and we'll kick it off, with that one. And there you go is the bell. Then we'll talk about some Advent stuff as that's coming up, and maybe some Thanksgiving and what's going on in the world, etc. So thanks for listening. Let's do this right now. So thank you for St. Louis for advertising with us. It is an awesome seminary, and to be very honest, we need more pastors, and we need more good pastors, as Paulson said at our last episode there, that preach the gospel, that know the gospel, quite frankly, but preach it. And I'm going to throw this out. Also, aren't weird. Can we do that? Let me throw that out.
That takes off like half the pool right there.
That's right. Wow. God's word is powerful, but is it more powerful than a weirdo at a church? Not by much. It's a little bit, but not by much. So anyhow, but we do know more pastors, and we talked about this a while ago, but it is a good topic. I'm also throwing this out for Matt. He's the first one that responded there, so we're going to take advantage of it. So, Matt, you got a free T-shirt coming your
and
way.
I think a beanie,
and a beanie.
too.
And I don't even have a beanie right now.
I know.
So,
man, if he gets his beanie before I get mine, I'm going to be...
Well, you should write down an issue. Hey,
I
how
don't
about
really
this? How about this? Maybe you guys actually write down, give me issues that we talk about.
If I knew I was getting a shirt out of it, I absolutely would have.
We should have had this contest for you guys. That would be very helpful.
Hey, Ross, Paul, Tyler.
We didn't sign up for that. What are you talking about?
Hey, you guys, first one to contribute gets an actual shirt.
You said, do you want to drink and talk? That's what you said when we started Ringside.
That's
what's going on?
You just said to me, hey, come into my office
now, man.
So, speaking of seminary, this is kind of like seminary. This is how Paul and I met outside in a cold fall evening with a beer in our hand, having had been in I think Veltz's Mark class, I believe we were both in. I was fourth year, and you were second year probably, I'm guessing, or something like that. And no, this is I believe that our first conversation was this. So it's Oktoberfest probably. We're hanging out, and you said, hey, you seem to know your Greek. How did you do that, through vicarage, post-vicarage? And I think that's because you were observing guys that were coming out of vicarage not knowing Greek. But that's I believe it's the first thing you said. I mean, I think we saw that we had a certain sarcasm was our love language. And so it brought us together.
That's right.
That's seminary. I would say that right there is seminary. And then the bond we
Yeah.
had, the hangout time, one of the greatest years of my life was that all the years, but that last year, fantastic.
Man,
We
yeah.
had a study room that you guys had somehow where we had
It was
whiskey.
Tim Eads' room, man.
Was
Do you
it
remember
really?
that place? Where we smoked
No, come on.
in
What
there.
a
It was
life.
great.
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah.
And I would say that's the residential beauty of forming pastors where dialogue and conversation is happening with each
So,
other. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say this, like so this whole question about residential and there are options out there for
Absolutely.
non-residential, and there our seminary and our synod is always kind of, I think, trying to figure out that puzzle of how we prepare pastors. But the case I would always make for a residential experience is those kind of intangible things, that these are not just academic degrees. You're not, to get a Master of Divinity is not just to train. It's not a PhD, right? Or it's not just an MA. And so there's a lot of, the language they always use now is formation, but that's a real thing. Like when we would come out of class and we'd go into Tim's room and we'd smoke pipes and drink and argue theology, that was as crucial as sitting in the lecture hall.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was huge. And and the back and forths, the classroom, I don't think you can overemphasize how needed that is. And so I think like his question though is, if they're just going online anyway,
that's
they're kind of like, why are you there? I mean, you could do this from home. And so it probably is challenging a lot of that, but hopefully the guys are getting together anyway.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
And I think that's happening in schools, universities across the nation. There's a lot of residential. They're staying there, but then they're online.
Yeah.
Because they're doing it to make money off you. That's the only reason. Although I would say I could make the case as a president saying, okay, we have to be shut down or whatever. And I think the three of us might argue you don't actually have to be shut down. But say you do. And argue, say, I know it looks like we're just, making money off you because you'll come and eat our crappy food, actually no longer crappy, at our cafeterias and in our residential rooms, so we won't go broke.
Right.
But you can make the case that, you know what? Yeah, maybe you're not going to see the professor and we're going to have some more safety, but we actually want you to hang out together. That's actually is a part of schooling.
Think of this. Every time you do a conference with other pastors, no matter what generation they are from, they will tell stories about seminary all the time, everyone. And so that time is so, formative. It's a powerful time because I'll talk to guys, they've been pastors for 45 years, and they'll tell every time we get together, they'll still tell stories of, old professor, so-and-so, and they'll tell these quirks and these stories and the things they did, because that was huge in forming them. It wasn't about, I'm not saying you could obviously do it other ways, but this is valuable, worth keeping, worth defending, I think.
Who was I talking to this past week going to one of the seminaries? What the heck? Who was that? And they were talking about Fort Wayne beat St. Louis in the basketball game for the first time in like 30 years recently. Man, that's really weird. Why? I can't remember who that'd be. But you get these, I hear this. First of all, our generation now is starting to have people, our district presidents or whatever, like we know each other, even if we might make fun of each other, blah, blah, blah. There's something about like, I know that guy, so-and-so. And it's a good thing, whether it's adversarial in a healthy way, or that's my buddy that's doing that or this, or is now at this church. I think you'd lose that if you didn't have that forming time where you see for 4 years different people, get to know them, and get a bond. Now you can create it when you get out there as a circuit and whatever, but not as tight as 4 years hanging out with these people as they go out throughout the world, serving somewhere. What do you think, Tyler? What about now let's talk a little bit about the reality of, okay, I think we made a case that residential should be always seen as the best option. Right. I think we can say that, right? Like That has to be the best option, and we can't just say it's equal to.
I mean, I don't know. Like you said, that your fourth year, my second year at the seminary, and then my fourth year when I came back from vicarage, those are just, I mean, such defining times, and it had to do with that camaraderie and the people together, and I don't know. I think theology ought to be done that way, to be honest. It's not separated from real life that way.
Yeah, it's like a church within the framework. That's kind of what it means to be within the framework of the church, the body of Christ. That you're studying, and then comparing your theology to one another. I think what's the antidote? Say you can't do that at all. I think money should not be the issue ultimately. I think we have to encourage all our people to go after the pursuit of their vocation, and not be stupid, but at the same time, don't be looking for the cheapest way of doing stuff. That's not really how you should live in general.
Well, I think part of the problem is, and we're starting to swing back to a different direction, but making it acceptable to go into the trades again.
That's a whole other topic.
Because I mean, college is a great, like you're absolutely right. College is a great experience, but for my generation, when I was in high school, I actually, and I'm going to apologize in advance to my dad for saying this, but my dad sat me down when I was graduating high school and told me, I don't care what you're going to do. You can major in whatever you want, but you're going to go to college.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I don't know that was the best advice at that time. I think if I had a clear, a love of cars and I wanted to be a mechanic and I'm sure he would have encouraged me to do that. But I think because I didn't have necessarily a defined, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go with it. College was the place I think that he viewed to figure that out.
Yeah. Finally, when you told him that your dream was to be the intern on a podcast like this one, I think that changed everything for him.
I did have to explain to him what a podcast was, but after that, this thing on your phone, you know the radio, it's kind of like that, except for we can say swears.
We can say swears.
We can say swears.
I think the next thing is, I think internet's useful, like this podcast. It's useful to conveying information and teaching and learning and everything. But then I think being under a pastor. So you go into a church and serving and learning, maybe through a seminary, organizing that under a pastor there. I think that's something that should be pursued, which we kind of are with the SMP deal. I think there's something to that, and used to be done in remote situations before you had the internet and all that sort of thing. But with human beings, with human beings and a connection. But I would still say not the ultimate.
I would say that my time at your church, Joel, was similar. I mean, it wasn't as defined as what a vicarage might be, but I would say that spending a year plus working directly under you, I mean, we had regular Bible studies that you'd pulled me into your office and we'd read through the Bible. You taught me.
All right. Very good.
Lost Tyler's mic.
Fix that up there, Tyler. Keep working at that. Let's go on to our next subject. Basically, what I heard was Tyler praising me. So thank you, Tyler, for all those praises.
I think it's back from my recording.